In New Mexico's vast open spaces, how on earth would you go about finding rock art? Well, we know the natives used to go up into those mountains, the Manzanos. You could go up there and search around, or you can find people to trust you to keep secret where these sacred places are. Many of them are on private land, so I will take care in not showing the horizon in many places, so the place can't be triangulated and found. The first rock art site is near Abo. Abo is one of the 3 Salinas Pueblo missions. The site we'll see is on private land, and you must be accompanied by a park ranger. Arrangements can be made at the Park Service in Mountain Air. This site required some hiking down a dry riverbed. Forward. The outcropping rock behind Travis up there is one of the things we're after. This area is just loaded with Indian rock art. You will find this art along the top ridges on flat panels of rock. Those 2 outcroppings of rock have some of the finest art that I have seen.
Large areas.
Like you're saying, I saw something over here. I thought it was an elk or something. He says it probably was a monkey of some sort.
I wasn't even thinking South American monkeys and Central American monkeys.
Yeah.
You just have to wonder what a symbol like this really is, what they meant. Here they made their illustrations on the side of the rock and also on top. And just a few feet away was a very secluded spot behind where the brush and rock come together. I can just imagine the ancient ones sitting on that ledge with a campfire, discussing what next they might want to illustrate. As I said, this spot has many illustrations. I photoshopped this photograph back in 2011. I sent it to the Park Service in Mountain Air, and I thought those poor rangers were going to have a heart attack. So now we leave this place and look for another. So after leaving a highway, we pass under this bridge, go past an old longhorn, follow a few cows, see some writing that may have been from the Spaniards, and do some hiking. This is Tenabo, and we come to a fairly open flat area, covered by many circles. These circles have been here for many hundreds of years. They could have been used for ceremonies. Some of the markers seem to line up with planets or the sun to show the coming and going of seasons. here wondering about another circle. Becomes obvious others have found and disturbed this place. Someone felt they needed to put the name Jesus in the circle. Someone had placed a plastic bottle at the center with this note in it.
While we didn't leave an answer, we did notify the property owner.
After some more driving and hiking, we came upon another beautiful place. We were lucky to have John Hayden,
You can still get your legs up high, that's a good thing.
a man with about 50 years experience climbing around these mesas and valleys, and also worked for the Park Service. And this is what we came for.
Hey, you said there are different layers of paint on there, John?
Yeah. Well, what we have here are some of the finer pictographs. They exist in this part of New Mexico. Well, I don't know, for their own right, they're the finest of this type anywhere. First thing, that they're not only colorful, but they are they're quite large. That's 18 inches there. You don't need a tape. I'm not touching them, just measuring them, but yeah, from chin line to the top of their feathers, about 18 inches tall. And what we're seeing here are layers of paint. I think basically the same subject matter, but because of the way they're one on top of another, it looks like some of the designs have changed a little. At first glance, you can see these masks here with very distinct tears,
Yeah.
cheek streaks, and then this one had an eye band. It, at one point was probably with turquoise
Oh, yeah.
or green. Very vivid. Not pale now, but back when originally applied, probably quite vivid in color. But the bright yellows and reds, red orange here, are probably hematite and then limonite for the yellows. So we can only guess what the blue green might have been. Copper minerals, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And white. They used white every once in a while, like here. And I don't know what to say. Clays, or there are some minerals that can be crushed. In fact,
That's up
this
there.
material here, which we see on the rocks around, which is probably a deposition of calcium. That could be ground up and reutilized as a paint. And I suspect not only was utilized as a paint, but was actually applied as a base.
Like a primer?
Yeah.
Huh.
Guessing only. They divide. This is a smaller mask here. He's probably on the order of 12 inches tall or so. But the whole lower right or left cheek here is done in a cloud terrace
Oh, yeah.
design. And but still retain some of the tear or cheek streaks
Mm-hmm.
on the right side. Headbands, they all seem to have a headband of some sort. And part of which is culminates in feathers that
Stick above.
stick above that
Yeah.
headband. You have the mask is enclosed here, or defined as a kind of an extended circle. Then this feather comes down and hits the top of this mouth, if you want to call it that, with the stripes that might represent a mouth. But anyway, it has a nice vertical streak through it. So you get a nice symmetry here, bilateral symmetry, which you don't find on some of these others.
Yeah.
This guy, his neighbor, doesn't have that. It doesn't appear to have that nose streak.
Look here, we found a penguin.
Well, surely not a penguin, but it was some kind of an image in the place of the mouth. These are pictographs. In the center, you can see a very large bird on the edge of that rock. A man looking beyond his hands. The stare-like objects within this panel are Zuni cloud symbols. Moving from left to right, we have the man's face with his hands, below it a bird and some other things. And moving to the right, you can see a little man facing you at the bottom, what looks like a little animal above him. And to the right of them is Kokopelli, playing his flute with a very large member. He was a prankster in Indian legend. To the right of his feet is probably a snake. Above the snake are cloud symbols. And just above to the right of the snake's head looks like an armadillo. Below and to the right of the armadillo are other animals. You have to use your own imagination. So as we left this secluded spot, we came upon some fossils. They were on a very large rock, and probably the fossils of some ancient pine tree. And here, after some more driving, we came upon what we always called the twin rattlesnakes. Here we thought we'd let the drone do a little bit of the climbing. And here are what we call the twin rattlesnakes. These panels have many pictographs. Here we'll get a little bit closer, starting with the upper right. Here on the left, a cloud symbol, then a stalk of corn, and a little man with maybe the moon up above, followed by a very tall bird, some cloud symbols, and finally a couple renditions of Kokopelli. Do you care to guess? Are they rattlesnakes? Well, it's time to leave another interesting place. And before we left, we found this on the valley floor.
Lastly, on the way to Alamogordo, Three Rivers Petroglyph site. With over 20,000 petroglyphs, it's very easy to just spend hours and hours looking. There's a ridge line along the valley floor. You can follow it for quite a ways and see many, many petroglyphs. Looking east, the mountain is Sierra Blanca.
Well, I hope you enjoyed just a little bit of the Indian art in New Mexico. About 30 miles north of the last site is White Oaks. A nice place to stop and get a drink.